Ahoy there, me hearties. This be Captain Silverhook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank.
Hey, welcome to podcast episode 107. We are back. Vinny's made the trip all the way up to my home base, so that's why you see the Celtic stuff up here instead of computer stuff,
instead of just
video games.
The painting of the guy from Yick doing the PS5 reveal day, all that stuff.
So we're back here at the crib up here, but we wanted to go ahead and come up with episode 2 of the greatest musicians and artists.
Part 2 of 5.
Yes, part 2 of 5 of the different states, and we are going to be picking up today. We'll be going from Hawaii all the way down through Maryland. So we're going to go ahead and do our, he's going to be starting off, and I wrote down some of the artists, and he's going to go with what he wants. And so what's your first one?
So I got Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And we have some interesting ones here because, like, on the list is Bette Midler. You know,
I always thought she was from New York or like Brooklyn or something like that. She just has that, she's from Hawaii.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I feel like, I know she sings. But I feel like most people know her as an actress. Not really a musician. And then there's also Bruno Mars, who is apparently from Hawaii.
Yes, born there, and he's had a bunch of hits.
Yes,
I mean, he's a modern day. They say he can sing just about anything. So.
Yeah. And then I feel like out of there's also Jack Johnson. He did the song from Curious George.
And he was also he was a surfer who's kind of a crooner with the guitar. So
he's like a one hit.
You're stuck, dude. You're stuck with Bette and Bruno.
I was gonna say, like, honestly, out of these people, I was gonna pick Bruno Mars because, Bette Midler, she had a moderately successful recording career, but most people, especially people my age, are like, oh yeah, she was one of the witches in Hocus Pocus, right? Like that stupid crap like that, right? So I got to go with Bruno Mars because, I'm talking Uptown Funk.
Well,
I'm talking
just on charts and sales. If you just want to go by that, and he does have talent. It's not like he's
a talented guy.
He's not just like a flash in the pan and stuff. And he's, I think, turning 39 now, so he's been around for a while and stuff. But the thing is, when you look at the two, she was successful in certain areas, but
Bruno he's a bigger audience. Yeah. Then we got Idaho.
Idaho coming in strong.
Apparently, there's one band. From Idaho from the 60s. We got Paul Revere and the Raiders. Before my time.
I was telling Vinny they're definitely a 60s band. Yeah. Their only number one hit came in 71 with Cherokee people.
It was
Cherokee
the Indian Reservation. Indian Reservation was their song.
So that was hit number one. So they had a bunch of hits. We were looking it up on, but they're kind of mostly forgotten from the 60s.
Yeah, they're not really a one hit. They had a few good hits, but they were really only in the late 60s. And then like Indian Reservation in 71 was like their last hurrah.
Yeah.
And then who knows what? I think the lead singer went solo.
Mark Lindsay went solo.
Moving on, we got Illinois.
This is the top.
This is the biggie. A lot of bands from Illinois. So you got to look on here like Styx, right? REO Speedwagon, Cheap Trick, big bands. But all of them were just kind of, I don't want to say flash in the pan, but in the grand scheme of things,
I mean, they're all still touring, but
exactly. But their heyday was like 5 years in the 70s and 80s each. Then also the Smashing Pumpkins are from there. Yes. But they had Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness in the 90s, and that was like the Gen X anthem. And then
1979.
Yeah, 79. Tonight. Yeah. That's all.
Too much Billy Corgan.
So again, there's a lot of folks here that are just big names, but not long term. Looking at this, it's down to Miles Davis and or Chicago, and I was gonna say between these two, I know Miles Davis, huge. He was like blues, R&B. Right?
He was considered one of the greatest jazz musicians of all time. But then you got Chicago.
And you got Chicago, who had platinum selling records in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, hit after hit after hit. I feel like Miles Davis is popular with a certain generation and a certain demographic, but I feel like a lot more people are gonna know Chicago from.
I think for musicians, if they were doing this, they'd probably
Yeah.
pick Miles Davis.
Yeah.
He was so good in the jazz influence things.
Absolutely.
One of his most famous albums is Bitches Brew. I just like saying that name. But yeah, Chicago.
Chicago, I mean, and that's.
I would have to agree. Miles Davis is like if they're 1A, he's 1B for Illinois.
Exactly.
But Chicago, 40 years of chart placement and platinum selling and stuff.
Yeah. Then we got Indiana, and
This one is not hard at all.
no, you got John Cougar Mellencamp,
Who's
good guy, great singer, been
Yeah.
performing a long time.
yeah.
But then, I'm sorry, Cougar, you got the Jackson 5 / just Michael Jackson. So, like,
That's a
remember in the previous episode when I had to deal with California and I'm like, look, I'm going to go by album sales. And I picked the Eagles because the Eagles' greatest hits is in the United States, the #1 selling album of all time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Michael Jackson's Thriller is the #1 selling album on the entire damn planet. Thriller. And it's the #1 album by a margin of like 12 million in sales.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. Like Michael Jackson had a very complicated life.
Yes.
Extremely. And I wouldn't
A
wish
tough
that
life, too.
yes, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but you cannot deny that the man had just an insane amount of talent. I got to give it to the man.
Mm-hmm.
He made Thriller.
Thriller.
All right, and then we got Iowa. It's coming down.
This is the one I joked with him. This is going to be so freaking funny.
The way Eric was telling me about this, he was like, "These are two popular music, performers, but the disparity between them is palpable."
Yes. Yes, you'll see.
We got Glenn Miller.
Glenn
right?
Miller, if you don't know who that is, in the 40s,
40s?
all the big band, the sounds like Tommy Dorsey
Yeah.
and all that stuff, he was the king of the king. He was the
was-
Michael
yeah.
Jackson back then.
Before I was so rudely interrupted twice, Glenn Miller. Okay, again, big band, 40s performer, huge, biggest,
Big
tremendous,
time.
great guy. In the 40, I'm number 45 and 47. He was big. He was huge.
He was like
He
#1.
was #1. He was the best. There's a lot out there, a lot of big guys out there. He's the best, #1. And then you said he was, there was that trip. He was flying over the English Channel, and then he just
They've never found the plane. No idea. It's one of the biggest mysteries.
straight up
from
Amelia
World War
Earhart.
II. Yep.
Yeah. And then the other, like I said, there's going to be a pretty big disparity between these two groups. The other one is Slipknot.
Right up here. If you see the picture of Slipknot, you'll see what
Slipknot.
they look like. Kind of
Yeah.
scary guys.
Yeah, it's, Slipknot, they were popular in the late 90s, early 2000s, along with like Linkin Park, Korn, Disturbed, Puddle of Mud, or no, not Puddle of Mud, POD.
Yeah.
That was Payable on Death, right?
Oh, I thought it was piece of dung.
That's what their music sounded like. But no, they were just in the arena with them. Glenn Miller seems to be the more,
You can still
obviously.
you can still hear his music
yes,
today, and I don't
80
know.
years later.
I don't know if 80 years later you're gonna be listening to Slipknot
No.
on whatever type of musical platform there is.
They're not going to have that. So those are my 5 states. And now Eric has...
All right, so I pick up with the amazing, the awesome state of Kansas, where Dorothy and Toto and them came from. That's probably the most important thing that's ever been attached to Kansas
and then
ever.
Toto had a good solo career with that song Africa.
Yeah, I like Africa and Georgie Porgy and Hold the Line and stuff. But Kansas, there was 3 basic musical artists that came out of there that I thought could be considered like the epitome of Kansas. And you had Martina McBride, who's been a very, very successful country and western singer. Her first album came out like in the early 90s, and she had that one song, Independence Day, that a lot of people like and stuff. But I was like, I don't think so. Then Melissa Etheridge, who's a female singer who Come to My Window and
Come to my window.
I don't know the rest of it.
Come
But anyways,
inside. Wait by the light of the moon.
the one that had to come from Kansas is Kansas.
Mhm.
The band Kansas, Fortunate.
So
no.
good.
What's it called? They have Dust in the Wind.
Yeah,
They
Carry
have
On, Wayward
Carry On,
Son.
Wayward
Yeah.
Son, and they have a bunch of different hits. They were
That
multi-platinum
band
songs.
is so good they named the state after them.
Yes, that's true. Kansas was just called Blank Space. And then after Kansas had their first big hit, they're like, that sounds like a cool sentence. Let's
State
call it,
number 50.
yeah, let's just call it Kansas after these group of great guys. So yeah, Kansas would have to be my pick from the great state of Kansas. Next one is Kentucky. And Kentucky had a whole bunch of people on there, but I kind of cut it down to 3. I had the Judds, mother-daughter group that were really big in the 80s and 90s. Grandpa told me about the good old days and stuff like that. I couldn't really pick them. Dwight Yoakam, who's been around forever as a country artist. A lot of people like him.
I know.
I can't think about him without Sling Blade.
I can't think of him without Crank. He's the doctor in Crank.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, the Jason Statham movie.
It's sad that, inside the heartache of... But the one that I had to pick from Kentucky is the coal miner's daughter, Loretta Lynn. She, I think she got married to her boyfriend when she was still a teen and started having kids, and they went to a honky-tonk one night, and she got up there and she tried to sing a song, and everybody said that she had such a great voice that she should do this more often. And, of course, her husband was a little jealous. If you ever saw the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, I saw that when I was a kid back in the 70s with Sissy Spacek. And she became like the queen, the godmother, whatever you want to call it, of country music. She had so many hits from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Everybody looked at her like royalty. So for Kentucky, I'd have to give it to Loretta Lynn. And then we go to Louisiana. Yeah. And I had some problems with Louisiana because there's a lot of really good musicians from Louisiana. Jerry Lee Lewis, who was known as the Killer, that was his nickname, and not because out of his 7 wives, 4 died. But he was on par, literally, with Elvis at one point in time as being popular. And then he married his 13-year-old cousin. And from there, it was just... And then it was between Louis Armstrong, who was one of the great, what did he play? The
trombone.
The
trumpet.
Trumpets. Yeah. The trumpet, little bit of monkey. But anyway, so yeah, Louis Armstrong with What a Wonderful World and Hello Dolly. Everybody remembers him, but as a trumpeter, he was far and above his singing and stuff. And I was like, that might be it, but there's one, and his name is Fats Domino from Louisiana. He was considered like the mayor of New Orleans. He was known, Blueberry Hill and Ain't That a Shame, and I mean, just beautiful songs from the early days of rock and roll. And he was a little guy. He was only 5'4", 5'5", and chubby and stuff. I think he lived almost to 90 or something like that. But the thing is, Fats Domino is definitely the best to ever come out of Louisiana. Then I was telling Vinny about his Idaho was kind of like my Maine. Maine, we had Howie Day, who had one hit ever in his entire career. Now he's had probably about 5 albums come out, and he's tried to release songs and stuff. He had one song. What was it?
Collide.
Somehow you and I. And it went 4 times platinum, so it was a pretty big deal. So I was like, Howie Day? And then I looked at Maine, and then I found Anna Kendrick. Okay.
Not even really a singer.
This girl right here, who's been an actress her whole career, was in Pitch Perfect and all the other movies that you've ever seen. She's been in Disney movies and stuff like that. Everybody loves Anna Kendrick, right? She had one song she's ever released.
Yeah. Howie Day had multiple albums and one hit. She has had exactly one song
that she ever released, and it was Cups. That song sold 5 million copies, 1 more million than Howie Day, the actual musician.
Halfway to Diamond.
And so I had to do I go Howie Day, who's actually a touring musician who's released songs and stuff, or do I go Anna Kendrick with Cups? I'm going Anna Kendrick with Cups because she had kids all over the United States making videos doing the cup thing.
The cup thing, yeah.
And because of that, that's just more important coming out of Maine than You and I Collide. And the last one is Maryland, the great state of Maryland. And we had different things like Greg Kihn with the breakup song and Our Love's in Jeopardy.
I only know the Weird Al version.
And he just recently passed away, sadly, Greg Kihn. I always thought he was an underrated guy. Toni Braxton, the R&B singer, Unbreak My Heart and different things like that. She was very, very big for a long time. And then it was down to the last 2, Billie Holiday or Frank Zappa. Now, here's the deal. Billie Holiday is considered one of the most amazing R&B singers, and for the African-American community, she's like up there in the top 5 with Aretha and stuff like that. Frank Zappa just released a ton of music.
Yeah,
do you remember what it said as of 2024?
162 albums,
162 albums. Okay, he died 30 years ago. And he had so much stuff that they just keep releasing all this stuff.
They just keep finding another cassette tape of crap. They're like, oh.
The thing is, his output did not necessarily make...
No. Didn't he only have one top 40?
Yeah, he had a top hit in the early 80s with a movie called Valley Girl.
Oh, right, Valley Girl.
Yeah. I think his daughter was in it or something like that. And then he had another hit in the 70s that hit number 40 or 38 or something like that. But we're not just going on hits. His output is tremendous. I would give him a pat on the back. 140-something albums, 160 albums. But the thing is, he never crossed over. They said, and I'm not saying anything, I've heard from a lot of people that they thought Frank Zappa was very inventive and he was the leader of Frank Zappa and the Mother Inventions. That was the
Yeah.
name of the band.
We looked up what was the song? We called like Cosmic Debris.
Yeah.
We got a dude on a trombone. There was like a cello.
And then what'd you say you heard in the background?
I heard a xylophone.
Yeah, xylophone. So
Right.
it's just like sometimes the experimentation is just too
much.
over the top. It's just
Dude,
too much.
this dude went into like the music hall, like a middle school. He was like, "We're gonna get this. We're gonna
all
get
of this
that.
is
all of this." Wind
Kazoo,
chimes.
kazoo. I mean, seriously, they just where's my triangle? Ding ding. Nothing against Frank Zappa, but I mean, he was an amazing person for putting out so much music and being that prolific. And because, like I said, he died in his 50s. But I'm gonna have to go with Billie Holiday.
Yeah.
She's a classical singer.
Absolutely.
Strange Fruit,
Yeah.
which is a song that my son, who's only 17, heard about, and he didn't understand what it was really about until he like read the lyrics. And he understood Strange Fruit was African Americans hanging from trees. That it was about people dying in the South because of the racism. He's like, Dad, that's really deep. I said, yeah. So imagine being a black woman in the 30s or 40s releasing a song called Strange Fruit, and it actually got played on the radio. I mean, that's not like today how you can just hear basically, I mean, things were regimented in what record companies would allow you to release and what radio stations would let you play. So who would you say out of your 5 was the weakest?
The weakest, I would have to say probably Paul Revere and the Raiders because they had the one hit in the '71. I mean, even looking
They probably
at,
had like 10 top 40 hits, but
Yeah.
they're only really known for a couple.
That's the one, yeah.
So you're saying that? I'm going to have to look at mine and say for the weakest one would probably have to be, I don't know, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, she's not even
She's
a,
not even a
singer.
musician, and she made it. So she, anyways, for the Two Old Pirates dessert,
I'm Vinny.
and get ready for the next episode
Next
where we'll
one.
be covering the next 10 states.
Oh.
Anyways, take it easy, people. Peace.